Hey, what's up, everybody? It's Brett Allan from the Open Mic Podcast. And yes, we're doing another live stream today. And I have with me the delightfully talented Laura Pieri. And she is, hello. And she is an unbelievably talented musician. And we're going to talk all about that here. And there's so many things that we need to cover. But first off, how are you doing with this whole lockdown thing? What has life been like for you? And how have you sort of been able to adjust and make life work for you as a musician and that sort of thing?
It's been very touch and go for me. Like I have days when I'm fantastic and I'm creative and all I do is make art, and there are days where I feel like nothing matters and the world is ending and everyone's gonna die. So it's been very confusing to me, clearly. And I feel like LA has also been giving mixed it's just been, there's a lot of people, so it's hard to know because at times restaurants are open then they're closed and they're open then they're closed and they're open then they're closed. It's just very uncertain. So I've just been staying home. I got a new kitty and she's a lot of work, so it's been taking up all of my free time. So that's kind of all I do. And when I'm not taking care of her, I'm working on my music or doing research for future projects. So I'm trying not to go outside and deal with the real world at all. I'm letting the outside world do its thing, and I'm just staying inside and trying to be creative and just allow the creative juices to flow the best way I can.
Yes, and I saw your cat before we started rolling, and she's adorable. But what kind of cat is it? Because it looks a lot different than most cats that I've seen. She's like brown and spotted and all that kind of stuff.
She's a Savannah.
Oh, wow. Okay. So now I do know about those cats, ironically, and I hear that they are very high maintenance. Like they aren't your typical cat. Like it's like
Yeah.
having a golden retriever, but in a cat body form, right?
I mean, to people that a lot of people have been telling me, oh my God, I want one. I mean, I've wanted one for about 6 years. So I took my time in prepping and knowing I was well informed and that it was something I was capable of handling and that I was able to put the time in when it's a kitty, because you can't leave them alone. You can't do a lot of things, and it's a lot of work, and you really got to be able to just take a breather, cancel all your plans, and just play with your cat. But it's worth it. I mean, I love her a lot. I have an older kitty, but he sleeps 18 hours a day, so he's off somewhere sleeping.
It's like having kids, kind of, a little bit. Yeah, I have a 6-year-old and I can't leave him alone either, so I can relate to you when it comes to that sort of thing. Well, you do music, obviously, but you mentioned that I know that you're into makeup. That's a big thing for you, fashion, and you like to draw and paint. Now, what do you like to draw and paint? What do you find interesting, and what sort of gets your creative juices flowing for that sort of thing?
I mean, so music for me is a very dissective thing. It has to be well researched and well prepared and well put together. But when I'm drawing, it's mainly for me to check out of my day to day of my life. So I don't really, it's something kind of very improvised. I don't do it on a schedule. I just kind of do it when I need it. And it depends. I don't like to paint on canvases or draw.
Okay.
I do a lot. I paint on clothes a lot. I did my hoodie once. I did Rick and Morty on the back of a sweatshirt. I did a collage with all of my friends. I drew all of my friends and then I cut them out and I did collage. It's just very feels very craft project-y. But when you had a craft project when you were a kid and it made you feel happy inside, that's kind of what drawing makes me feel. So that's kind of where that comes from.
That's fantastic. Rick and Morty. Okay, so now I'm going to ask, you need to paint something for me with all this. I know you have, I'm totally messing with you, but I love Rick and Morty. In fact, I had one of the voice actors on my podcast who plays Rick. And so I'm a huge fan of them, and I've just slowly started introducing my son to them as well. So yeah, he was fantastic. That's great that I find creative so interesting because you have music. And I think the common perception that a lot of people have is that that's you and you kind of have all of that and then you're focused, but you have to have other things to sort of take your mind off that, right? You can't always just be focused on music all the time, or you would probably, your brain would implode, I would imagine.
Yeah, absolutely. You need space to breathe. You need to let yourself breathe. Like there is such thing as staring at something for too long and you stop seeing what's right in front of you. So sometimes, let's say if I'm working on something and I can't seem to move past it, there's a roadblock. What helps me is to just, I'm not going to look at this right now. I'm going to go do something else, and then I'm going to come back to it. And a lot of times that's when I'm like, okay, well, this isn't working, so I'm going to go draw for 2 hours. Or I'm going to go and sketch, or I'm going to go sit outside and start drawing birds I see. Like whatever it is, it's just something that's different than what I'm doing.
Yeah. Now, something interesting that I find about you, Laura, and we're going to cover a lot of different things here, but let's start with the music that you just released, a new single called All I Need, which was executive produced by Corey Rooney, who he discovered J-Lo. Yes. And he has also worked, well, he's currently working with Brandy on her new music, which she hasn't had anything in a while. So talk about timing and providence. How did this connection happen with Corey and you get connected with such a mega? This guy's won Grammys. I mean, good Lord. He was going to join us today, but he's building out a brand new studio in his house. So he's a little bit busy, and that's okay. But how did you guys meet and connect and collaborate?
It's funny because, I mean, I'm a big proponent of hard work and dedication. But sometimes you do just have to be at the right place at the right time. Like sometimes luck really does take over. I knew someone who knew someone who knew someone who introduced me to Corey, which was, it's already like the chances of that even happening are already wild. And then we got in the studio kind of just to meet and to see what my sound would be, because it was actually Tommy Mottola who introduced us and said, hey, I have this girl from Brazil. Hasn't figured her sound out yet. Doesn't really have a lot of a structure, but it's a good basis. So help me, right? And that's how I met him. And we just really worked really well together. He's an incredible mentor. He just, out of his good grace, decided to take me under his wing. And I've learned everything that I know from him. He's just really helped me find my voice, and he's taught me what it's like to really dig in to be an artist and to study the people before you, and to just what it means to be dedicated is really, I learned it from him.
Yeah. And to have somebody like that connect with you is a big deal, but it doesn't go without saying that there's still a lot of hard work and hustle that go into all of that, right? When it comes to even those connections that seem so like, oh, wow, I met this person. And I think that what we put in grows, right? And putting all of that in and all of the hustle and hard work allows us and paves the way for those kinds of opportunities, right? And then all of a sudden you're working with this megastar and helping you get developed. Now, as a new musician, when that introduction was first made, was that nerve-wracking for you? How did you feel? What was going through your head when you realized this was going to happen?
I was freaked out. I was very freaked out, but I knew I had one chance. I had one shot to make one impression, and I wouldn't, like, when would my next time to be in a room with someone like that, would that come about? I had no idea. That could have been it. So I just went in being like, I need to make the first impression. I need to prove to him that I can do this. I need to prove to him that there is something here that is worth spending time on, that is worth spending energy on, because time is our most valuable asset. We can't get it back. Once you do something, you can't, the now is all we have. And so I just walked in and was like, hi, this is me and this is everything I am. And I kind of just did a whole not presentation so much, but I was trying to show my influences and show my style and where I thought I needed work and how hard I was willing to work. And that's kind of how I approached the situation, and thank God it worked out. But
yeah, that's unbelievable. So you've done that. And if that wasn't enough, you created your own filter for Instagram or Snapchat. I'm sorry, you created your own filter, or you did something.
Well, we have both filters. Like we have two filters on, one on this like Instagram and one on Snap.
That's very cool, and that again reckons itself to just your creative ability and putting things together. I like that you just have so many different things going on. Now I want to talk about you were in school or you're currently attending Gallatin School at NYU, correct? And
Correct.
that's not a typical college because there they kind of allow you to create your own discipline. How does that work?
Oh, well, I mean, it's fantastic. I mean, I love it. I love NYU. I definitely think it's a school. I mean, it has its own weaknesses, but I'm really glad to attend there. It's a school where basically what you do is you have your own major, but you need to prove that it's a major. So you get to pick from any discipline that you want, and you look at one topic through many different of these disciplines. So, for example, you want to pick to look at one theme, and you can look at it through many interdisciplinary ways. So through anthropology, through philosophy, through politics, through history, this one same topic. And so you kind of you become an expert in one concentration in these areas of these multiple different disciplines. And so I go to NYU at Gallatin and I'm studying evilness. And so that's my concentration, but through the scope of anthropology, philosophy, politics, and history.
Wow. So I have to ask out of curiosity, what made you choose that as a discipline? I find that so interesting.
It's just a concept that's fascinated me from the beginning. I think that it's a very discursive word. It's defined by its context, and it's really hard to fully. We all know what we're talking about, but we can't really define it when we want. So it's a thing that's just always been in the back of my mind. And I feel like we're all villains in someone's story. There is a version of us in someone's story right now to which we are their worst nightmare. We're the villains of their story. And like as someone who tries to live better and I guess healthier every day and to be a better person, it's interesting to me that to someone that I might represent that, and just how do you tackle ideas of that? And what are the symbolisms of that? And then so that's the brain of it all. And I mean, I'm a big true crime fan, so I had to put that in there as well because I absolutely love my favorite murder. I love reading about it. I love all the different like true crime podcasts that there are.
So you're a true crime fan, and I'm sure you probably watch all of those true crime documentaries on Netflix. Does that all intrigue you as well?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. When they bring a new one out, I'm always so excited. I binge watch those, and it'll be like 2 a.m. and I'm eating mozzarella sticks, looking at forensic files, being like, of course you left a thumbprint. I'm like, yes.
So if music doesn't work out, CSI could be in your future, right? I'm totally kidding.
Who knows? I'm not saying no. Who knows?
So do you have a favorite one that you like to watch?
Criminal Minds.
Okay. So you're old school. You like the real raw Criminal Minds on Netflix. There are so many. Did you watch the new the reboot of, I can't think of it now. The one that's gotten so much attention on Netflix, it completely escapes me now. Oh gosh, forget it. I'm completely unprepared. It was a show that was on TV for a long time, and then it talks about unsolved mysteries. Do you like those types of things as well?
Oh, I see those in the background. Like if I'm cleaning, I'll put that on, but I don't really watch it. Like I watch Criminal Minds religiously.
Very nice. So now we know what you've been up to during quarantine when you're not painting and creating filters and writing music. So you do a lot during a day, it sounds like. On a normal day when life is not crazy like this, how do you manage your time and how do you mitigate everything and make it work?
It's so hard. It's something that I struggle with a lot, but I've realized that the earlier I start my day, the more productive I am.
Okay.
I'd rather wake up early than go to sleep late. So I sometimes make those compromises. Like I'd rather go to bed at 10 than to stay up till 2 and wake up at 10. So my day usually starts at around 6 or 7. That's when I like to shower and I just like to meditate. And then it's just easier for you to keep yourself on track. You just check your clock. Like, how am I doing on my day? Am I productive? Have I eaten? It's a struggle because specifically with the lockdown, I live alone, so I have to keep myself in check. It's different than like having to go to an office, but I have a great team that keep me on my toes. They're always calling to check in. We do like every so often we have checkup meetings where we all Zoom, and it's just easier to stay on a regulated schedule. But so much of it has to be self-imposed, and that's so challenging for a 23-year-old. It's really hard to keep yourself on a schedule, but that's where I find that I'm the most productive, and that's what I've been working on recently.
Yeah, when you're an entrepreneur and you don't work a regular 9 to 5, you have to stay on task, because you could find yourself doing nothing for long periods of time. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm an up late person versus getting up early, so I'm kind of the same way in that regard. But I think that's great. You have a lot going on, and something else interesting I wanted to talk about is that you were on the Snapchat show
Endless.
What is that all about, and how did you get involved? Endless, and how did you get involved with that?
Wow. That was really fun. I've met some amazing people on that show. I'm still really close with Quincy and Dylan. I sometimes touch base with Summer, but she's super busy off doing her thing, thriving in her own. It's basically like a Snapchat softly scripted show where there are plot points, but it is reality based. So a lot of what you see are our own personalities, our own names, but a lot of it is kind of scripted. So there's some awareness of what's going on, but it's a fun show. It's lighthearted. It's just a young teen. It makes me happy kind of gossip thing to watch. And I had a lot of fun being a part of it. And I cherish the friendships that I've had from it.
Yeah, and I feel like too, with the way content is being streamed right now, there's just so many platforms that we have access to watch. So I was able to watch a little bit of it. It was a lot of fun. I like the high drama, the reality stuff. I mean, I've had tons of reality stars on my show, thanks to your publicist, and we've just had a lot of fun talking to some great people. So who are some of your influences musically, like in regards to when you're sitting down to write, that you kind of look at and go, this is somebody who informs me. I like, this is the way, the kind of stories that they tell. I kind of connect with this as a human being.
I mean, so I have like my not lifelong, but I have like the influences that really influenced me up until now. And I have people that right now I'm currently obsessing with. So right now, I'd say that Jessie Reyes and the way that she writes is incredible. She is so talented, and she has a way with words and her intention and her emotion. Every line is so purposeful. I could stay up hours listening to her. But the love of my life is Prince. I absolutely love his work. Purple Rain was a spiritual experience to me like 2.5 years ago, and recently, a couple weeks ago, I watched it, and it was like the sky parted and things made sense to me again. It's a movie I like a lot. It's an artist I admire a lot. But I've been currently kind of listening to a lot of 80s music. I'm listening to a lot of Sylvester too. I've gotten into a lot of David Bowie, very in the 80s. But right now I've been looking deep into Jessie Reyes because she is so talented.
Yeah, those are great influences, by the way. I'm an 80s kid, so brownie points there. Let's talk about your career. You've done a lot in a very short amount of time. Looking back on it, is there anything that you would do differently, or anything that you would change to kind of, maybe if you thought it would sort of redirect your path in a different direction, or would you just leave everything the same?
I'd have more patience, because I made myself way more stressed than I ever had to be at times.
Okay.
Not saying it wasn't stressful, but I'm saying that I certainly didn't help the stress by being stressed. Like, we exist and we will continue existing, and it's going to be okay. And then I need to just take a breath and just reset. I was not as calm as I am today.
Oh, really? Were you just operating at such a high level of stress that it was affecting you? Was that kind of what was going on?
No, it was more like I wasn't organized, and
Okay.
so it's easy for you to just feel like you're suffocating with the lack of organization. So it was more from that than anything else.
Yeah, well, organization is key, right, in anything, especially if you kind of come from obscurity, not you specifically, but just generally speaking, and then you start getting a taste of success or whatever the case might be, then you want to just hyper focus on one thing instead of learning to mitigate it and to balance it, right? Because that's why you have a team now who helps you think, because otherwise you would probably go crazy if you had to do it all yourself, I would imagine. Especially kind of where you're at now, working with this high level producer and all of that. So looking back again, just kind of over everything that you've done, what advice would you give to your younger self outside of patience that might help you where you're at now?
Let it go. I said let it go, because I think that so much of my best creativity comes when I'm completely just relaxed and let go. And I feel like I spend so much time trying to be creative. I didn't allow myself to actually just exist in creativity. I'm getting really abstract today.
That's
So
good.
kind of feeling like that. I just would have let go more and easier. It's just, it shouldn't be painful.
Yeah, yeah. Do you have a hard time letting things go? If like, are you a perfectionist?
Yeah. And I allow things to upset me when they're not perfect.
Okay.
Like if I'm turning a paper in for school and like the pages aren't printed properly, like that psychs me out. Or for example, if the font isn't correct, that also, I don't like that. Or there's a couple of misspellings, that'll drive me crazy, because I don't want to, if it's a final product, I'm turning this in, this is as best as it should be.
So when people text you, if they don't use capitalization and grammar, does that just drive you nuts? That drives me insane.
I always ask people, for like all of you that abbreviate YOU to just you, what do you do with the free time? Like,
Or if you ask them something and they just type back K, just the letter K, that drives me insane. I'm
oh, I
like,
do that.
you want to know what else? I'll tell you is when I ask somebody something and they give me a thumbs up or the okay emoji, I want to delete them out of my life. I love people, and so if you're watching this, no thing personal, but I'm like, yeah, how much time we're texting? You have voice to text, right? You can just say something.
I
But
forget to reply. I'm terrible with my phone. Either I reply immediately or you won't hear from me for days.
I think that's most people in your type of work. It doesn't matter what you're doing. I think, email is such a strong form of communication, and that's how we get things done. I would prefer to email somebody if I can than text them. Do you like to talk on the phone, or no? You're not a phone person. You just want to text or email
I'm
unless
a
it's
FaceTime person. If you want to talk to me, FaceTime me.
yeah. See, we're learning so much about you today, Laura, and that's what this show is about. No topic is off limits. And I like it because it allows our listeners who will hear this later and watching now to walk away and go, hey, this is a different person than what the impression might be that I have, or that celebrities, talent, they're regular people too, right? I mean, it's hard. For some people it's one thing and for some people it's another. And I like just the you. It's like, well, you can't take 2.5 seconds and add a Y and an O to it. You just have to abbreviate things. I love it. So if somebody was starting out in this industry as we wrap up here and they had to get some kind of advice for you or from you, what would that be? What would you tell them?
Trust your intuition. I feel like our intuition speaks really loudly. Most times when I've went against my intuition, it was a problem. And when I followed it, things turned out right. So follow your intuition. You know more than you think you do.
Yes, I think that is great advice to end on. So, Laura Pieri, if people want to stream your music, they want to hear your new single, All I Need, which is amazing, by the way, you have to check it out. How can they connect with you and how can they listen to your music, Laura?
I'm on all socials, including all music platforms at the Laura Pieri. If you just search my name up, you're going to find me on all the platforms. It is I.
It is her, Laura Pieri, and thank you to Lauren over at the I can't think of the name. My brain is like off today. But anyway, her music is fantastic, and when this goes to air later on the podcast stream, all of that will be available in the show notes. Laura, thank you for being on the podcast today. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.